30 years ago, we never would have imagined being here talking about this. We went from childhood games to energetic alignment. By doing the work, we created better versions of ourselves. Join us, two women sharing their intimate journal entries on their path to consciousness. Get in here, get in here, get in here. My name is Zakkiya and
I'm Akliah.
And we are the host of the new podcast, Get In Here. We have literally just wrapped our first season, and I wanted to bring us back together to talk about how we feel about it, what's happened since we filmed, and what your hopes and dreams for this podcast are. So, Akliah,
Okay.
right off the bat, I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite episode?
Oh my goodness, we had so many. So we had like 9 episodes this season, right? And I know that doesn't seem like a lot to y'all, but trust me, it was a lot for us. But
It was work, y'all. It was work.
It really was. Okay, so running through all of the episodes, I would say my favorite one, or the one that really resonated with me the most, was Trust, the episode about trust. And I picked this one because in that episode, I talked about trust being my season that I'm currently in, right? Like I am in a trusting mode all day, every day, because I just feel like God said to do this. God said, trust in me, trust in everything that I am putting in front of you, trust in these opportunities that are opening for you. Walk through the door, right? Don't stand behind the door. Don't create resistance. I'm excited about continuing on in this season because I feel like I'm still in it. I still have a lot to kind of learn and a lot to, still walk through. So I would say trust. What was yours?
So for mine was episode 3, Love. And I think for the same reason, that one resonated with me the most because it was the most vulnerable. We had to remember, I actually had to put a trigger warning on that episode for a couple of reasons. But for me, it really was my coming out story of how I got here and why it was so important for me to share this story on my journey to self-love.
Right.
And what I had to do to get to self-love. It was like I had to remove everything from my life in order to really learn how to love myself. So that is hands down my absolute favorite episode.
I think I know. You know why I think that's your favorite? Because I feel like that's the one that I remember the most about you. I mean, we've known each other for years, but after that episode, I could not get that story out my head. I was like, damn, Zakkiya really shared, a very vulnerable moment. And it just kind of is etched in me now. So I totally agree that would be yours.
Yeah. Okay. So now that we've wrapped on the episode, what are some things that have happened in your life, or like how are you feeling about the season? Like what have you seen, or has anything changed since you filmed season 1?
I think just me altogether has changed. I think, everything, like I said, that is happening and opportunities that are opening for me are just like, I know it's because of the podcast. I know it's because because I told you guys in the last episode about purpose that I felt like I was taking a leap of faith. And
well, they haven't heard the episode yet, so they wouldn't know what you're talking about. But yes,
sorry, y'all.
Sneak peek, guys, sneak peek.
So yes, purpose. I said mine was taking a leap of faith. And so, I feel like I'm doing just that. Like I am, that's what is happening around me and to me. I also feel like, these days are they're so memorable in the sense that I feel like, everything that I encounter, everything that I see, conversations that I'm having, like I was having a conversation with my sister the other day, and I was just like, this conversation ain't serving me, babe. I have to let this one go. And I said it so nicely. And she was like, okay, and she received it very,
And respected it.
with open, exactly. Yeah. I am starting to say things that I would not have normally said. I'm starting to believe in myself and trusting that, the people that I'm having conversations with are my tribe and they, love me enough to receive it. And, it doesn't have to blow up into a confrontation or
Yeah.
anything like that. So, you know, conversations are just getting better. I'm becoming more conversationalist, right? Like I told you, I don't share, right? And so I'm having conversations with people now and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna give you everything.
Right.
you
Right.
know, and
Nice.
and
Nice.
and and so I just feel like, things are just I am starting to trust and, take it one day at a time, but it's so good,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
No,
Like,
I feel
is
the
your
same.
life good? I know your life is good. You master manifester.
No, you know what? Life has gotten so good after this. In fact, yesterday morning before work, after I dropped the kids off, I was going to meditate, but I ended up just sitting in like deep thought and ended up breaking down, absolutely
Mm.
bawled. But because I felt so good, and I
Oh,
said, thank you, thank you, thank you. Like, I know I'm on the other side of this. Like, I know who I was and I know I am not that woman anymore. And it's so
yeah.
funny because, our episodes, we had dreams, manifesting, love, intuition, gratitude, entanglement, trust, present, purpose. And in each of those, and we say this throughout the season, every time we did one of those episodes, it amplified in our own life, right?
Yeah.
So, we talked about dreams, our dreams amplified that evening. We talked about manifesting. I started seeing manifestations coming quicker than I had even registered that I was asking for something. I
Yeah.
started to feel love. And that's what drove me to like break down in tears yesterday because I was like, oh my God, I love myself. And I'm so proud of myself. And I'm so
Yes.
grateful to be here right now. And I know that this podcast has everything to do with it.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything to do with it. So life
It
is like really
does.
good. And I'm just, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude, which is an episode, which is really important to manifesting. So the fact that we're sitting up here so like filled with this beautiful energy, we're
Yeah.
calling more of it to ourselves. And so that's really what my hope is for this podcast, so that anyone that hears it and can resonate with it can take it back and apply it to their own lives so that they can heal and feel this good
Yeah.
despite what circumstances may look like. When you are whole and complete with who you are, nobody and nothing can take you off your throne.
Absolutely not. So, okay, I want you to tell everybody how we got the name Get In Here, the podcast.
Okay, this is actually a good story. And it is for a reason because Akila and I now, the podcast was an idea that I had put out there almost really 2 years ago now when we think about it, because spring 2025 would be 2 years ago that I asked you to do a podcast. It took us that long to really launch this thing, but it was cool because we, I guess, filmed 5 or 6 episodes prior to this season, and
Mhm.
they never were right. They
We just
never
sat
were
on
right.
them.
And so we stopped trying, but we still met every week to have these in-depth, deep conversations. And so week
And
after week.
we had another name originally with the first 5 episodes, remember? Like,
Yes,
we
we
had a
did.
totally different name. We had a totally different, like, theme. It was different.
I thought about that yesterday. I was like, it was totally different and it totally wasn't us, which is why it never worked. But the reason we got to get in here is because
Right.
every week Keela and I would meet. And whenever something juicy had happened that week, and really juicy for us now means within our personal lives, it's not
Yeah.
messy, it
Right.
ain't drama, it ain't gossip. Whenever something really good happened that we were excited
Mhm.
about, we would open up the FaceTime and be like, girl, get in here, get in here, get in here. We got something to talk about.
Yes.
And that came to me very randomly when I was like, what is the podcast name? And I was like, it has to be something that is ours. And I was
Mhm.
like, get in here.
And I
So
loved it
that
immediately.
signified the whole energy and tone of the call. When we
Yes.
opened it up and somebody said, "Get in here," I was ready to be like, "Girl, what's the tea? What happened this week?" So that's where the name came from. And
Yes, and I loved it immediately, and I remember telling my daughter the name, and she was like, "That's genius." And I was like, "That coming from a 14-year-old? Y'all, that solidified it for me." She was like our biggest critic. So I was like, "I think you got it, Zakkiya. That's it."
these teens are hard out here. So the fact that she confirmed immediately, we knew that we
She
were
said it
onto
was
something.
genius,
Yeah,
actually, okay? And remember, you like to call yourself a genius.
I do. I actually do. And that was one of those guys ideas where I was like on fire. But another thing that
Yeah.
came out of that was the format for our show. The way that
Yes.
we film the show right now, we each read our own personal journal entry at the start of the show, under which whatever theme it is. So if it was dreams, manifesting love, that's what our journal
Yeah.
entry is about. And we read that and we're very vulnerable and honest about that. And then we just open up a conversation between the two of us based on what we read in our journals.
Yeah.
And that came to me from a dream that
Yep.
I could not decipher, that I didn't understand. And then when I got quiet, I also smoked weed for the first time after like a month and a half. But after I got quiet, I heard very clearly the dream was about you writing your
Mhm.
journal entry. And that's,
You
I
said
told
something
people,
about, like, pens was in the
yes,
dream
it
or
was a
something.
dream about pens. I had helped someone do like something heroic essentially. And the city awarded them pens. And I was like, when I say like thousands of pens, but I was like, oh my God, look at all these pens, guys. They are like beautiful. They're bright. So like gorgeously. And like I was like over the moon. I was like, I even brought my daughter in. I was like, look at these pens. And I woke up being like, what did that
It's so
even
dramatic.
mean? I know, wait. So I woke up and I was like, what did that mean? And I had decided to step away from smoking weed for a month and a half. And then I did it for the first time because it felt like there was a bit of a celebration because we knew this podcast was happening. So I did.
Yeah.
And I heard very clearly the pens are because you need to write, Zakkiya. And I was like,
Mm.
oh, we need to write for
Yep.
this podcast. And our very first episode that we filmed with this podcast with the journal entries, we knew as soon as we got off
Ooh.
that it was that was the format, that we finally found something that we liked and that it clicked. And so
Look,
now we're excited to share it with you all.
if y'all could have seen us after that first episode, like, y'all would have thought we won an Oscar, baby.
We
We
did in
were
our head.
so proud of ourselves. We
Mhm.
was like, "Oh my god, that was it." But that's how we knew that the first time around that wasn't it, right?
Yeah.
Like the comparison was so clear to
Yeah.
us that this was the format, this is what we're good at, and this is what is going to call in our tribe because already the spirits were helping us, right? Like getting these ideas, making all of this come, together in the way in which it did. We knew that we were being helped, right? And
Right.
so we were calling now in you guys to come in and share this experience. And baby, we were so happy. We were like, we got something gold in here, right?
Yeah.
And so, even now, like you and I will talk and be like, we're just, we're filled with so much and we kind of like are starting to visualize our futures, right? Like just visualize the life in which we want to live. Like where's this taking us? And we see ourselves on private planes. We see ourselves out the country, laying on beaches, listening to the ocean.
Mhm.
We see so much for ourselves, and that for me is because of this podcast. Like I'm able to actually dream bigger than I had ever imagined.
I was literally about to take the words out of your mouth when you said dream. I was about
Because
to be like,
we're the
dream.
same person.
We
that
have
that
noticed
part.
the longer that we have done this, we've been, again, because I said we were meeting weekly for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. The longer we've done this, the more synchronicities we've seen. And
Oh
that
yes.
continues to be true, especially after we wrap the podcast. Like things were coming at like lightning speeds, or I would call you and be like, girl, guess what happened to me this week? And you'd be like, girl, that happened to me too. Or like, it was just
Right.
we were living parallel lives, states apart. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for this podcast. I'm grateful for the listeners that tune in. We hope that you enjoy it. It is dropping January 3rd at 6
January
a.m.
3rd.
Season 1 of Getting Here with Zakkiya and
Akliah.
we can't wait to see you there. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Bye,
Peace.
guys.
Until next time, get in here, get in here, get in here.